Hey, what's up, gun nuts? It's Ferrari Steve, and today I'm going to show you my detail firearms cleaning procedure using my ultrasonic cleaner. And this is my ultrasonic cleaner. It's a Crest Ultrasonics, and these are actually medical grade ultrasonic cleaners. You can find them online, and they're generally kind of expensive, but you can shop around and get a deal, which is what I did. You'll see these in doctors or dentist offices, and I saw one at my dentist office, and so that's what made me decide I wanted to get one. They're commercial grade, they're going to last a long time, and they do a fabulous job at cleaning. I wanted to make sure I got one with a heater because you can crank this up to 60 degrees centigrade, and having a heated solution really helps the ultrasonic cleaner do its job. I like the timer because you can just kind of, like Ron Popeil says, set it and forget it, but obviously you don't want to leave your gun in any solution for a long time unattended. But you can kind of, if you're cleaning other things that maybe aren't so delicate, then you maybe can just set it and forget it. Also a lid, really important when you're dealing with the heated solution, because as it evaporates on the lid, you can open it and shake it back in there and not lose your solution. So there is my solution. And what am I using? Well, I'm using Simple Green Pro HD. Why? Well, primarily because it's a heavy duty clean. No, primarily because of this. Non-corrosive, safe for metal surfaces, safe on metal surfaces. So regular old Simple Green, you know, the green Simple Green, is actually not that safe on all metals. It will corrode aluminum, and that's why it's not rated for use on aircraft. But Simple Green Pro HD is totally fine on aluminum and any other metal and plastic, and so it's a great compromise of powerful cleaning with safe to use. In fact, it's biodegradable, so that's another benefit of using this is when I'm done with this, and I'll use a solution for a while, but when I'm done, I can just pour it down the drain, and that's okay. So you can dilute this. It says makes up to 16 gallons, but that's if it's really heavily diluted. I like to use the 5-to-1 mix, meaning for every 5 parts water, I use 1 part of Simple Green. So I've got a gallon of distilled water in here, which is only 88 cents for a gallon bottle at somewhere like Walmart. And then I'll use 2.5 cups of the Simple Green Pro HD, so that's a 1-to-5 mix. That's really effective for cleaning firearms, and then I'll run it in here for maybe 15-20 minutes max, depending on how dirty it is. But you'll notice here when I turn it on that it's not forming bubbles. It's just, you can just kind of see those little waves, right? Those sound waves coming from the water. That's because this solution has already been degassed. And I won't go into a lot of detail, but if you do get an ultrasonic cleaner and want to try it out, look up degassing and make sure you degas your solution. A degas solution is going to be the most effective for cleaning. So when do I want to do this? Well, I'll do this probably about once a year for a firearm that I'll use a lot. I'll also do this the first time I get a new gun, whether it's brand new or new to me, to remove all the petroleum-based cleaners that have been on it, all the dirt and grime that maybe a previous owner didn't get, before I throw it in my tactical crock pot full of Frog Lube and get it all lubed up. So one of the things to look out for when you're using a water-based solution is you've got to get that water off the gun parts as quickly as you can. Again, another reason for having a heater, another benefit to that, is that the water will start to evaporate immediately, and you'll have a lot easier time drying the water off. In fact, in some parts you won't even have to. It'll just evaporate off itself. But then you'll see when I go to the lube step that we really don't have any issue with water being in any of the parts. But if you're going to use a water-based solution, you need to be very, very careful to make sure you have a method for getting all that water out, whether you blow with compressed air or completely submerge it in lubrication like I will. You've got to keep an eye on that. So let's get some gun parts in here and I'll show you how it works. And let's have some fun with my ultrasonic cleaner. I've got all my parts in the ultrasonic cleaner now. It's not turned on, but the water's a little bit cloudy, and the steam is fogging up my camera, so I've got to stay back a little bit. So you can take a little peek down in there and see if you can see what's there. You'll notice I've got a little Ziploc baggie. Because my wire basket, the holes are kind of big enough that little pins and stuff I've got a Glock 21 in there. Boy, if you could recognize that from those pieces, I'm impressed. I've got a bunch of little pieces like springs and pins and anything that I think would fall through the basket. It's not the end of the world if it falls through and sits on the bottom of the tank, but it's going to work better a little bit suspended, and it's going to make it easier for me to get afterwards. So I got a little Ziploc baggie, fill the baggie with the solution, or as much as I need to get everything, you know, covered in there. You can see all the little bits and pieces there in my bag. And then put it inside. Now, ultrasonic cleaning, as you probably would have guessed, uses sound waves to clean this, and so it's going to there's going to be a little loss of sound wave through the plastic, but it's not going to be that bad, and probably not bad enough to affect the cleaning. And that water is pretty hot, and that's going to really help a lot too. So let's turn it on and see if we can see some dirt coming off. Normally I wouldn't run it with the lid off because we're obviously evaporating. You can see steam, we've got stuff evaporating. So I have a lid I can put on, but we'll keep it open for now just to kind of see if we can see some dirt streaming off. We can certainly see the water moving around and it doing something. And you kind of got to look at what the water looked like before we started. So I'm going to let it run for about 8 minutes, and then let's see how things look after 8 minutes. Alright, time's up, so let's look in the tank. And the easiest way to do that is to just lift up this basket. I'm going to have to do it one-handed here, so let's see if we can have a peek in there. See how things turned out. Alright. Well, not too shabby. Looks pretty good. Let's start taking our pieces out. And if things are too hot, well, let's have a look here. Yeah, I see some dirt floating around in there. Again, this isn't super dirty because I do a field cleaning on my guns after I use them generally, and so my detail cleaning sometimes doesn't have a lot of work to do. But yeah, I see some stuff floating around in there. Ignore that red flashing light from my GoPro. Yeah, I see some gunk in there. We'll take that out in a minute. And then, let's see. Oh, it's warm. It's warm. It's not too hot to touch. So I'll put it aside here. That's pretty warm. Let's let that sit for a minute and cool off. This stuff's I can touch. Let's see what stuff we got in here. Okay. Again, I put parts on the basket that I thought would be big enough to not fall through. Now, you don't just want to let these air dry. Some stuff can corrode pretty quickly. I think we'll be okay here for a little bit, but I'm going to dump this bag out and then put all the pieces on the towel, and then we'll come right back. So here are all my parts out of the cleaner. You just want to kind of look around and make sure you've got 1, 2, 3 pins. You want to look for your spring cups. You want to certainly look for this little spring on your safety plunger. Those are the kind of things that can get lost easily. But otherwise, it looks like we've got everything there. Now, one of the things the ultrasonic cleaner does is agitate dirt. It will remove a lot of dirt, but it really just kind of loosens it. So there may still be some dirt, and probably is in some places. So while it's still wet, I'm going to take advantage of that. For example, I see some dirt here that should come off. If I wipe that, yeah, see, we get dirt off there. So the ultrasonic cleaner it'll suspend some of the dirt in the water, but what it does best is agitate the dirt and make it loose so that it's just super easy to wipe off. So as I dry the parts, I'm going to get some dirt coming off, which is totally fine with me. That's the whole idea, right? So I'll both dry and kind of wipe off some residual dirt from the pieces before we move on to the lubrication step, and I'll show you that in a minute. So I'm going to dry these all off and get any residual dirt, and then we'll move on. So the next step I take, and you may hear you might hear my ultrasonic cleaner running. It's because I figured while the water was hot, can you tell what that is in there? That's a SIG 220. So I figured as long as the water's hot and I got stuff flowing, let's clean a few things that I've been neglecting. But here I've got the barrel, and I'm going to do something traditional and run this wire brush through it. And this is from my Otis kit, which is what I used to use for all my cleaning until I got the ultrasonic cleaner. But Otis makes some really great cleaning products, and I still use it from time to time, and especially for doing this. So you never run a brush through a dry barrel. So I put a little Frog Lube inside there to lubricate it, and then I'm going to run this brush through a couple times, and then run a patch through just to kind of get any of the crud inside the barrel that was agitated from the ultrasonic cleaner. So I'm going to turn off the camera because I need my other hand, and we'll come back. Alright, so I ran the brush through a couple times and got a little bit of crud out. That's not bad. Not filthy, but at least we know we got something out, as I expected to. If I didn't get anything out, I'd worry. That meant the ultrasonic cleaner didn't really do its job inside there. But everything else is dried, so I'm not worried about it rusting yet. But I do want to get it lubricated. So I am a Frog Lube fan, but I used to use the hairdryer, and I still do. And this is my piece of cardboard that I have for my Frog Lube. But I decided to go some overkill and use a tactical crock pot. Now, it's still warming up here. I just got the big tub of Frog Lube, put it in my crock pot, and then I can just drop my pieces in there and cook them. And let that Frog Lube just cook right in. So maybe talk to your wife and ask her if she's interested in a new crock pot. You know, then you can adopt the old one as your tactical crock pot. Obviously, a tactical crock pot should be matte black and, you know, have some Magpul stickers on it. But, you know, apparently I'm not tactical enough. So I'm going to let that last piece of solid Frog Lube soften up, and then we'll drop the pieces in. I've removed the towel next to my crock pot where I dried all the parts off because I use a cardboard box, and I've used it for a while, and what it does is soak up all the Frog Lube. But then if you reheat it, and I just threw a blow dryer on here for a little bit to kind of reheat it and get it running again. I mean, the Frog Lube here is still pretty clean, and I'll put the parts right down here, and this cardboard box kind of absorbs the extra, and then you'll see I'll be able to wipe off the pieces. So my next move is to pull the pieces out of the crock pot, let them kind of drip dry a little bit onto the cardboard, and then I wipe them down, and I kind of wipe off most of the excess Frog Lube on the outside. That way it's not going to get gunked up, but all the benefits of Frog Lube are, I'm still going to get them. I just don't like an overly lubed gun, especially a Glock. And my springs are still all safe up there. And I did put some of the Frog Lube on my fingers, didn't put them on the spring itself, and just kind of ran it around in my fingers just to coat it so that we can kind of protect it from some corrosion. But as you can see, I didn't really grease up the springs at all. I don't like greasy springs. Again, I can't really, well, I guess I can do this part with one hand. But I won't, just in case I drop one. So I'm going to get all the parts out of the crock pot, put them here, and you can kind of see what they look like when they're wet. One of the benefits of doing this, by the way, is anytime, again, you use a water-based cleaner in your ultrasonic cleaner, you are at risk of maybe for not drying it properly, and if you oil it manually, you might forget to get somewhere, and you might have a spot that's wet and doesn't have lube on it. Obviously, doing it like this, you get lube in every single nook and cranny. You know, the drawback is you get lube in every single nook and cranny, so you got to make sure it doesn't get gunked up, get too much in there. But as long as I kind of shake it clean, and I'll throw the blow dryer on it as well. I'll pull the pieces out and hold them up and blow dry to kind of push off some of the excess and let it melt off. And then I'll wipe it down pretty good, and I get real good results from that. So that's what we'll see next. Okay, I decided I got the big pieces out, so I will let you peek at what I'm doing. So I just grab the next piece. Notice I'm using Teflon-coated tongs because, one, they can stand the temperature, and two, they're not going to scratch any finishes. So I'll shake and get as much excess Frog Lube off as I can here while it's hottest, and then let it soak over here. What else we got? Oh, we got two pieces at the same time there. All right. So basically I'm going to do this. Oh, here's our whole trigger assembly. Nice. So I'm going to do this for the rest of the pieces, and then I'll show you what they all look like when they're out. So all the Glock parts are now out, and the SIG parts are all in there. And I suppose now is a good time to point out there was one thing conspicuously absent from the Glock. I did not put the frame in the Frog Lube. I don't want to gunk up the inside. There's too many places for that Frog Lube to pool inside most polymer frame pistols, so I don't put the whole frame in there. I will take some Frog Lube and just wipe it down on the outside to make the plastic look nice and shiny, but I don't really need to lube the inside of a polymer frame gun. The SIG 220, however, being all metal, I'm going to put that whole thing in there and cook it. And this is actually the initial Frog Lubing I'm doing to this gun. So I'll do this as part of my detail clean, but I'll also do it the first time I get a new gun or new to me gun. I'll take off all the petroleum-based cleaners, or the petroleum-based lubricants, excuse me, with my ultrasonic cleaner, and then give it an initial Frog Lube. So I'm going to put the lid on here, let it cook for 20 or so minutes, and I'm going to move over here to the Glock pieces. Now, they're all nice and shiny and wet, so I better move quickly because I don't want it to cool off too much that it starts gunking up and making it hard to wipe off. So I like to use the same Frog Lube impregnated rag all the time, and there's some dirt on there. That's okay, but this is kind of a little bit thicker. You can feel it's got something in it. Oh, it's got a brush in it. Well, that's not what I meant. What I meant is you can feel that it's, it's not crispy or crunchy or anything, but it's, it's like a cloth that's impregnated with some sort of solution, which it is. It's got Frog Lube that I've wiped over time, and I really don't want to wash it because it's perfect for doing this, and kind of, I can wipe anything down quickly, kind of like a pre-coated cloth. So I'm going to wipe all these down, and then let's see how they look. I'm back, and all these parts now have been wiped down. I use these, I stole these from my wife too. These are makeup applying Q-tips. These are really good for making sure that, especially in the striker sleeve here, I get out any excess gunk. I also like to stand the slide up so that the striker channel, anything in there, especially when it's hot, all that Frog Lube is running out. I don't want it to kind of pool in there, and then shove one of these up in there and kind of felt around a bit. And then the frame I took out, and I took basically the excess Frog Lube, because I wiped it here, and then just ran my hands over it like this. Just kind of picked some up and run my hands on it, and then wiped it down with the rag so that the frame looks kind of, you know, well dressed. And this has had a lot of rounds through it. I mean, I don't know if you can tell from the, you can kind of tell from the slide that, well, it looks better now. But this has had a lot of rounds through it, and boy, it still looks good with some Frog Lube, right? So I'm going to put it all back together, and let's make sure I didn't forget anything. But that's pretty much the process of making sure everything's Frog Lubed and well cleaned and well lubed. And again, use these Q-tips to make sure the spots that don't need a lot of lube, anything to do with the striker channel, you don't want a lot of lube in there on a striker fired pistol. So let's put it back together and see how we did. And here we have it, a freshly cleaned and lubed and ready to rock Glock 21. And that's how I clean not just a Glock, but also a P220. You know, follow different strategies. Sorry, the same strategy, but different techniques and tactics for each different gun. But my overall strategies are generally the same. One thing I didn't show you off camera was I ran this patch, a clean patch, through the barrel before I put it back together, just to grab any of that extra Frog Lube that collected in that barrel. Had I stood the barrel up like I did the slide, I forgot to do that, it would have run out a lot more. But it's really not a bad thing to have a lot of Frog Lube in the barrel. It's going to get cleaned out the first time around, goes down there anyway. But this is how I do it. You may do yours differently. Go ahead and leave in the comments if you have some different ideas or have some questions about my method. But thank you for watching. Please go ahead and subscribe if you like what you see. I really appreciate subscriptions. And get out there, use your guns, practice, practice, practice. Get them dirty, get them nice and clean, but make sure that the first time you have to pull that trigger, it's not the first time you have pulled that trigger. Si vis pacem parabellum. I'm going to start getting this back together, and stay safe out there.